Am I the asshole for filing an unfair dismissal claim that could bankrupt a small business? I'm a 32-year-old man, and for a little over a year, I worked at a small family-owned restaurant. I genuinely grew attached to both the job and the people there. It wasn't perfect. For most of the time I worked there, I was paid below minimum wage, but I knew that before accepting the job. Recently, the owner, who I'll call Mary, decided to raise everyone's pay to meet legal wage standards. Ever since then, she's become much more critical of our work. Instead of speaking to people privately, she often points out mistakes in the staff group chat for everyone to see. Back in January, I made a mistake and charged a customer at the wrong table, which caused about a $50 loss during that shift. Mary was understandably furious. I immediately offered to cover the loss myself and told her she could deduct it from my next paycheck. She didn't really respond, just sent a thumbs-up emoji. Then came Valentine's Day, which was extremely busy. At the end of the night, only me and James, one of the kitchen staff members I'm close with, were still there. We split a $10 tip from the shared tip jar since we were the only ones finishing the shift. Other staff, including Mary, had worked earlier that night, but they had already left. The next day, Mary asked me if I knew what happened to that $10 tip. I answered honestly and told her exactly what we did. I thought that was the end of it. A few days later, she sent out the weekly schedule, and my name wasn't on it. Shortly after, she messaged me saying I had broken her trust by taking the tip. She argued that I decided on my own to split it without permission, and that the tip could have been left there before my shift even started. I honestly didn't think what I did counted as stealing. It came from the tip jar, and we've never had any clear written policies about how tips should be handled. Even though I felt hurt, I asked her if I could have another chance and if she could explain the proper way to manage tips going forward. She said she would think about it and mentioned my recent mistakes, adding, "I'm running a business, after all." After that, she never contacted me again. I've been extremely stressed and upset, and I've started considering filing an unfair dismissal claim. Based on Fair Work Commission guidelines, I believe I may have been dismissed unfairly since I wasn't given proper warnings or a real opportunity to improve. I haven't contacted a lawyer yet, but from what I've read, if the claim succeeds, Mary could be ordered to reinstate me or pay compensation of up to 26 weeks of wages. Legal costs alone could seriously hurt, or even bankrupt, the business, especially since things have apparently slowed down compared to when I first started. I'm also worried this could affect other people. James might lose a potential sponsorship visa opportunity, and my nephew works in the kitchen too. I hate the idea that my actions could put their jobs at risk. At the same time, I feel like I was treated unfairly and simply cut off without a real conversation. So, am I the asshole for considering legal action that might financially destroy a small business? Am I the asshole for reporting my neighbor after their husky broke into our garage and killed our chicks? My husband and I have 3 kids under the age of 3, 2 boys and a girl. We live on about 10 acres of land, roughly 30 minutes outside the city. We do have neighbors, but there's a decent amount of space between our properties. One of our closest neighbors owns a husky that constantly roams loose. The dog comes onto our property pretty often, but it never seemed aggressive, so we usually just shoo it away. We also have a large dog ourselves. We're not even sure of the breed since we adopted him from a shelter, but we always keep him inside a fenced area whenever we're not outside supervising. Yesterday, we decided to buy some baby chicks so we could eventually have fresh eggs. We also thought it would be a fun experience for our kids. We set the chicks up in a large plastic tub in the back of our garage, close to the door. This morning, I left to drop the kids off at daycare and was gone for less than an hour. When I got back, I realized my husband had accidentally left the garage door open when he went to work. At first, I was only worried the chicks might have gotten cold, but when I went to check on them, I found several chick heads and intestines inside the tub. The rest of the chicks were completely gone. We had over a dozen. I checked our security cameras from earlier that morning and saw the neighbor's husky walk straight into our garage and then leave about 2 minutes later. The dog had literally eaten more than a dozen chicks in under 2 minutes. I'm obviously upset about losing the chicks. A large dog should not be roaming freely like that. At the same time, I realize we did leave the garage door open, so part of this is on us, but now I don't want that dog anywhere near our property. We have 3 very young children who run, scream, and play outside all the time. If this dog could kill that many chicks so quickly, I can't stop thinking about what might happen if it decided to go after one of my kids. Most of the time we're outside with them, but occasionally our oldest, who's 3, plays outside alone for a few minutes while we step inside to grab a snack or use the bathroom. That's part of why we bought this land in the first place. I don't really know these neighbors, but I'm planning to file a complaint so they're required to keep their dog contained. There aren't leash laws here, but dogs are legally supposed to stay on their owner's property or be under control when off it. I'm not trying to get the dog taken away or anything, I just want them to keep it contained. We do the same thing with our own dog for exactly these reasons, so. Am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for asking my parents not to bring alcohol into my apartment? My parents live on another continent, so I don't see them very often, usually once at Christmas and maybe 1 or 2 extra visits a year if schedules line up. This weekend they're flying in to visit me for my birthday, and they're supposed to stay at my apartment for 3 days. The problem is my mom's relationship with alcohol. We've never officially called her an alcoholic out loud, but that's basically what it is. The last time she stayed with me, she secretly brought a bottle of vodka into my apartment and drank about 3/4 of it over just a few days. When I confronted her, she apologized while she was clearly drunk and promised it wouldn't happen again. But once she sobered up, she denied everything, the classic cycle. I had actually recorded a video because I felt like I was losing my mind, and when I showed it to her, she said she would control her drinking. I told her honestly that I thought she needed to stop completely, but I also know that's not something I can force. My dad insists she only drinks on weekends now and not that much, but if I'm being honest, I don't fully trust his assessment. Every time my parents visit, I repeat the same rule: I don't want alcohol in my apartment. And almost every time, it turns into an argument. A few days ago, I reminded my mom again. Then my dad texted me before their flight and said, "If you don't want alcohol in your home, should we just stay somewhere else?" This is coming from someone who almost didn't visit because of the flight cost, even though they're also visiting my brother and the flight they're talking about is barely an hour long. I told him I really wanted them to stay with me. I even bought some of their favorite non-alcoholic drinks so they'd still feel welcome. He asked why. I said having alcohol around stresses me out. He kept pushing, asking why, even though both of them already know exactly why. They both know my mom's drinking is a problem. At this point, I feel like they're either going to book a hotel and spend my birthday drinking anyway, or stay here and complain the whole time because I set this boundary, and now I'm starting to question myself. I don't even know anymore if this is a reasonable boundary, or if I'm somehow being unfair. So, am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for being too clean as a roommate? I'm a 21-year-old woman living with 3 other girls around my age, and honestly, this entire year has been miserable because of how messy the apartment has become. It got to a point where I physically couldn't stand the mess anymore. So instead of letting everything pile up into one massive weekly deep clean, I started quietly cleaning a little bit every day, even things that technically weren't mine. And when I say messy, I mean things like dishes left out until they literally start to rot, food and crumbs all over the floor, no sweeping or vacuuming ever, stacks of cardboard boxes just sitting around, and a shared bathroom that almost nobody cleans, including clogged drains that I'm somehow always the one fixing. Last year I actually lived with one of these roommates, I'll call her Sky, and we barely had any issues. We became really close friends. But this year feels completely different. We decided to live with a mutual friend, Jane, and the 4th roommate is someone Jane lived with before. Over time, Sky and Jane became extremely close, and I started feeling kind of left out. I managed to deal with that part, mostly. But lately it feels like they've started resenting me because of the cleaning situation. A mutual friend told me that they think I complain too much, that I'm basically a chronic complainer and hard to be around. Since hearing that, I've genuinely tried to stop bringing things up. But nothing really changed. Sometimes they act like they want to hang out and be close again. And other times it feels like they can't stand me. Apparently Sky told our friend that she gets frustrated because I get upset over small things, and that I never give them enough time to clean since everyone has different university schedules, so I tried backing off. I waited to see if they would handle things on their own. They didn't. Right now, there are dishes that have been sitting in the sink for 3 days, and honestly, I feel like I'm going crazy because none of this seems to bother anyone except me. No one else cares about old dishes or chores being ignored for days at a time. To be fair, they do clean sometimes, just very slowly, and usually not very well. I'm also the only one working a demanding job with early shifts. I start work at 4 a.m., and when I come home around 1 or 2 in the afternoon, the apartment looks exactly the same as when I left. While everyone else is just hanging out, I'll admit, I sometimes come home exhausted and visibly frustrated. And looking back, I know that isn't entirely fair. It's not their fault my schedule is harder than theirs. But in the moment, it's really hard to hide how overwhelmed I feel. I guess what I'm really asking is, am I being too strict? Too demanding? And is this the reason my roommates don't really want to be close with me anymore? Because I honestly miss how things used to be. And I don't even know if fixing this is possible, so? Am I the asshole?